after my twin sister died, so me and my mom, we went up there, and my baby sister, we went up to where she was. They had a body, and we went to view the body and had made arrangements for the funeral home in Mobile to go pick her up. And so we had to go clean our apartment out. So me and my mom knew. I told my mom I was going to raise her kids, and so we had to look for her kids' birth certificate and social security card. So me and my mom looking, and my sister, we all looking while we packing up stuff, but we couldn't find it. And I was like, we were just so emotional. We were just ready to pack the stuff up and just leave. So I told my mom, don't worry about it. I'll just go to Board of Health and get another copy of birth certificate and go to Social Security office and get another copy of their Social Security card. And I was like, let's just go. So we packed everything up, came back to my apartment in Montgomery. And so I had a lot of family members came at my apartment, so I didn't feel like being bothered. So while everybody was up front, I just went in my room and shut the door. And I was just leaning against the wall. I remember sitting in the corner and just crying. And I had brought one of the suitcases where I had all her kids' stuff in my room. So I'm just sitting there crying, and just like in a state of shock. And I heard my sister's voice so loud and clear. Yeah, I'm not going crazy. She was like, hey, Kiki, get up and look in the side pocket of the suitcase. And I was like, no, I don't feel like moving. And my sister was like, okay, but I need you to get up and look in that pocket. And I was like, you did not hear me? Now, mind you, just me in the room, but I heard my sister. I said, I don't feel like getting up. I said, I just viewed your body. You gone. I said, I'm mad. You're not here anymore. I don't feel like getting up. My sister said, girl, just get your butt up and just do what I say. She started hollering at me. So I was like, wait a minute. Girl, I don't care if you're dead or not. You ain't gonna be hollering at me. So now I'm hollering like, don't you raise your voice at me. I don't care about you hollering at me. So now I'm hollering. So, and my sister, just get up and just look in the suitcase. And so, I'm hollering back, don't you holler at me? So, so I heard a knock on my door. So it was my kids, my cousin, auntie. They was like, you okay? Who you hollering at? I said, Mika, she up in here hollering at me like she my mama. I said, y'all don't care. She don't be raising her voice at me. So now they looking at me like, what? I said, she up in here hollering at me. She lost her doggone mind. So they was like, okay. So they shut the door and they went on back to the front. And so I got mad. So I went over there to the suitcase. And so I'm going through the pockets. And guess what it was? It was the birth certificate and social security cards up in the side pocket of the suitcase. And I was like, oh. And I heard my sister said, next time, just do what I tell you. And I said, next time, don't you be hollering at me. And so, and I heard her chuckle. And she said, bye. And I started crying because I knew I wasn't going to hear her voice no more. But she come to me regularly in my dream. But that was the time my sister hollered at me.
A ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable, but is entirely true. I'll go first.
Okay, hi, this is my time to shine. Now, if you saw my Susie Stitch video, you know I had a great auntie named Ann. Okay, my auntie Ann is my dad's aunt, right? So she's my great auntie, but we had an auntie named Louise. Louise is Ann's auntie, so that makes Louise my great aunt. But she wasn't super old. It just sounds like that because my great grandma had a sister that was super young. So Auntie Louise and Auntie Ann, even though they were auntie and niece, they were super close in age and they were super close, like locked in. They were more like sisters. They loved each other, right? Okay. So my auntie Louise died when I was about in third grade. She died from cancer. And that's a whole nother story in and of itself because I remember after she died, I, for some reason, had like a heightened awareness of paranormal things. Like I was suddenly afraid to be in places that I've always been alone in. I was afraid to be in them alone because I was like sensing some type of heightened sense of like a different realm or something. I don't know. But my auntie Louise died, and my auntie Ann is distraught because again they're like sisters, right? So some time after she died, I'm at my auntie Ann's house, and I'm in her room by myself. My auntie Ann, I don't even know if she's home. I don't know where my cousin Missy is. I don't know where Michael is. I don't even know where my cousin little Mikey is. Like I'm just in my auntie's room alone. That's not uncommon. Like I was always in her room by myself. She had the most peaceful room in the house. So I'm in her room by myself and I'm sitting on the bed. I'm just watching TV, hanging out, and the bed just starts aggressively shaking. I don't mean like I may have moved and like the bed may have had some residual shake. No, the bed is like aggressively shaking with me on it. I know nobody's playing a prank on me because again, I'm by myself. I would have saw anybody else in the room. My cousin Mikey was way younger than me, so there's no way he could move me and the big old bed, you know? So I knew that it was something else. I also like tested it a little bit, like I moved to make sure I wasn't tripping. Now, something about me and paranormal stuff is when it happens, I don't acknowledge it. Because in my head, if I don't acknowledge it, it can't like harm me or it like goes away or it doesn't exist. So what did I do when that bed started aggressively shaking? I silently got up and I just slid off that bed and I just walked out the room and I never told nobody. I didn't tell anybody. I just told my mama this story like a couple weeks ago, like for the first time. So fast forward, it's 2016 and my auntie Ann passes away, right? So we're at her house. Now, this isn't the same house where the bed was shaking. This was just the last house she ever lived in. So me and my cousin Missy, who is Auntie Ann's daughter, we just in the house and like we're all talking and we're telling stories and stuff because my Auntie Ann was very paranormally inclined. Like so much stuff happened to her, and anything paranormal for me mostly always happened in one of her houses. Like her houses were the hub of paranormal activity. She has stories for days, and if I would have any like paranormal dream, I would ask her about it first because she was very like knowledgeable in that area. So anyway, we all sitting around in her house and just having memories and telling stories. So I tell the story about me sitting in my Auntie Ann's room. And do you know, before I could finish that story, my cousin Missy goes, and the bed started shaking, didn't it? And I was like, how did you know that? What? Like, how did you know? And she was like, after Auntie Louise died, my mama took one of her leather bound journals and she kept it and she would keep it underneath the bed, underneath the mattress. And ever since she would put that leather bound journal underneath the mattress, she was like, she don't know what it was. But the bed would just shake like that. And this is the early 2000s. Like there wasn't any toy or device that was doing that. So she was just like, yeah, ever since she put that journal under there, the bed would just shake all the time. So I don't know what was in that journal. I don't know what was so special about it. I don't know if it was like witchy or what, but I just thought that was so crazy and I felt so validated because I never told nobody that story because I didn't want to sound crazy.
Ever tell this story because you know that no one would ever believe you.
Okay, so I used to be a photographer. I started my junior year of high school when I joined yearbook. So I started doing photography around 16 and I stopped around 27. Started my own little photography business and I did it for 10 years and made some good money and memories. So one of my friends, they asked me to do a photo shoot for them. No big deal. But they wanted me to do a photo shoot with their new boyfriend. Now, I think I might have told the story time before, but I didn't tell it into too much detail. The friend I did the photo shoot for recently had a loss of her partner. I'm not gonna lie, I think their relationship was over 10 years. They were high school sweethearts, had over 6 kids together. And after he passed away, it wasn't even 3 months afterwards till she got somebody new. But I'm not judging because you do you. So we're in this new romance, and long story short, she's like, hey, can we do a couple photo shoot for that year's Valentine's Day? I'm like, yeah, perfect. She pays me head up, and I'm like, good, let's get it started. So at her photo shoot, she brings her youngest daughter. And I'm just like, oh, she doesn't have a babysitter, no big deal, right? Right. We're doing a photo shoot. They arrive late, but black people time. My photo shoots, they're always a mood. 2 hours later, the music is playing, the food's going, we're snapping. Literally. You're probably not wondering this, but the reason why I'm not a photographer anymore is because I began to realize I take pictures for people so good, and this is petty, but anytime somebody has to take a picture for me, even with my good equipment, they have me looking like Trick Daddy. So during the last moments of the photo shoot, she asks us for her daughter to get into a couple shots. So I'm thinking it's just going to be her and her daughter. No, it's her and her daughter and the new man. So I start to get cold chills and I'm uncomfortable because I'm like, ooh, this is a little soon. But who am I to judge? Because, bitch, you're paid to take a picture. Click, click. A girl, as soon as the little girl gets into the picture and I'm trying to get them in the right positions and stuff like that, I get a cold chill over my back. My intuition is on high. Of course, I'm not listening to it, even though I should. Rule number 1, always listen to your intuition, even if it doesn't make you the popular one in this scenario. Your intuition is your body's spiritual alarm system. Listen wisely. So I begin taking the pictures. I get goosebumps down my back, cold chills, and it's February. We got the heat on and the photography lights. There's no need for coldness. And even my friend, she was like, did you feel a cold chill? And I said no, because what you give energy to, you give power to. I was on some if you ignore it, it'll go away, even though I know better. I just simply did not want to feed what was ever in. So they leave. And of course, whenever I did a photo shoot in my mom's living room, because she has a big living room. Long story short, as I'm cleaning up and taking down like my backdrops and all that stuff, and I had food out because I like to give my clients like food and stuff just to make them comfortable. So I begin to do the dishes. I gotta go to the bathroom and pee. I come out of the bathroom for peeing, and I see on my living room couch there's a man sitting there. So I continue doing the dishes. Then I was like, bitch, you're the only one in your mama house. Who the fuck is that? Now, if y'all know from other story times, my grandma and my mom, they're heavy psychics. I don't see spirits like that, maybe once every 3 to 2 years. So I turn back around and I see that it's my friend's deceased partner. Now, we knew each other in life, so I was like, can I help you? And as soon as those words left my mouth, I blinked and then he was gone. So I was like, oh well. So then I'm like, ooh, I'm not staying in here tonight. So I go to my friend's house. I don't tell my mom, who's in her back bedroom, what I seen, because I know how she is. And she's like, you can't bring everything in the house. You gotta be careful because you never know what people carry with them and shit like that. And I get that. I've been told that my whole life. But so I don't tell my mom. I'm over at my friend's house. We up late. We talking, just gossiping, talking mad shit. I get a call from my mom. It's 4 a.m. I'm like, what is she doing calling me? Because I left her house about 9 p.m. She's like, bitch. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And I'm nervous because it's just my mom. And she's like, who the fuck is this at the end of my bed? And I'm like, what you mean? She said, bitch, don't play dumb with me. She's like, who the fuck you let in my house? And I'm like, Mom, what do you mean? She said, bitch, don't play dumb with me, ho. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. She said, ho, I'm gonna see you in the morning. And it's gonna be up. I'm like, ugh. And it's not like he haunted or was malevolent, or because you can sense the difference if you're really tuned in. So then I'm like, okay, Ma, I'll handle it. I threw some salt on the floor and then swept it up. It didn't do shit, and she knew I was buying time. So the next night, I'm asleep, right? A bitch wake up in the middle of the night because I'm thirsty. I'm a thirsty hoe at night. Guess who's sitting on a chair in the dining room? Just sad and slumped over. I said, bitch, let me get this over with. So not to be anticlimactic, I called my friend up. I said, bitch, you moving too fast. Show some respect. Have some decency.
I grew up in a haunted house, and these are my stories. The mimic was an entity that dwelled in the house. And it would do literally what its name is. It would mimic people's voices, but in a very odd and specific way. Mimic someone's voice exactly to a T, but it would sound like it's in low volume. Picture someone turning on the TV and watching it like at 5% volume. That's how low it would sound. It sometimes would sound like it's in the next room next to you, but it's still at that very low volume. Even if someone was like screaming, it sounded very low, like, hey, help. Like very, very low. I don't know really where it came from or if it was already in the house we moved in, but I do have a feeling it manifested the night my sister saw the old woman in her bedroom. On that night, while my sister was inside being terrified by the old woman, my mom and her friend were outside discussing, work and retail life, as you do when you work in retail. While they were talking, they heard someone like mocking them. That was spooky. Sorry. They heard someone mocking them from the back of the garage. Best way I could describe it is my mom would say something like, hey, how was your day? And it would literally sound like, from the back of the garage. And they were hearing this and they're like, what the hell is that? So as two Latino women who are fearless, what did they decide to do? They decided to go investigate. Like they're thinking, oh, someone's in the yard, because they heard it clear as day, someone mimicking every single time they said something. And when they went to the back of the garage, nothing. There was like nothing there. And they're like, well, it's late. It's like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Maybe we imagine it was a long day at work. And then they would hear from now the front of the garage, like just mocking them every single time they said something. And they went to the front of the garage to check it out. Now, you could say it was being a distraction because my sister was by herself upstairs with the old woman, and my mom and her friend didn't go back into the house until they heard my sister scream and then describe what she saw, which was the old woman, the story from yesterday. As I said, I don't know where it came from. It may have manifested itself that night. It may have been brought from the forested area with the old woman. I don't know. But I do know that's the first time we encountered it, and we encountered it many more times after that. But that is the story of the mimic.
Okay, I got one because me and my dad literally just talked about this story like recently, and it still creeps me out to this day.
So my dad's best friend, my Uncle Marshall, this is someone that him and my dad, they grew up together in Nigeria, all from childhood till they graduated high school. When they graduated high school, my Uncle Marshall came to America. And once he got here, he did everything in his power to get my dad over here, which he did. So yeah, thick as thieves, besties. So around the time when I was like 5 or 6, my Uncle Marshall is always at the house, like was always at the house because him and my dad, they were young, so they were always like drinking, partying, all of that. And if my uncle was, too drunk to drive, he would just be on our couch. He would fall asleep on our couch, whatever that may be. He was always there. Even if they weren't going out and it was just late, he would just, like, I just knew, like, Uncle Marshall, he'd be on the couch. He'd be asleep on the couch. One thing, though, that I look forward to whenever he did stay the night, even whenever he just came over, he really loved me and my siblings. Like, he would, if the ice cream truck was outside, he's the one, like, come on, let's go. Like, to go get us ice cream. He's always bringing over, like, sweets, candies, all of those things for us, presents, all of that. So, anytime I know that he's there, I know that when he wakes up, we're going to get, like, some good stuff. But unfortunately, my uncle ended up getting cancer. And so I remember, again, around like age 5, 6, us going to the hospital to go see him. He was up, he was talking, like he was fine and all of that. And yeah, I just remember thinking, because I was so young, I wasn't really understanding like what cancer, I didn't know what cancer was. So to me, I'm like, okay, he's sick. I get that, but he's in the hospital, so he's going to be okay. I didn't understand like any other alternative to not being okay. So maybe like a week or two after the hospital visit, one night I wake up and, just want to go lay in my parents' bed. Just wanted to go lay with them. And so as I'm leaving my room, I am walking past the living room and I see Uncle Marshall on the couch. He's laying on the couch. And at first, I wasn't sure if it was him because I didn't remember him coming over the night before. So I look closer and it's dark because it's nighttime. I look closer and then he looks up at me. And so I'm like, oh, that is Uncle Marshall. He looks up and he just like waves. And I'm like, and then I'm like, I get excited because I'm like, oh, yes, he's here. We're going to get some good stuff in the morning. So I was kind of excited to see him. So after I did my wave, I kept going and went to my parents' room. So once I got in the bed, so I'm trying to squeeze in between my parents or whatever. And so it wakes up my dad. My dad wakes up. And yeah, so I'm like trying to snuggle with him. And I just tell him like, oh, Uncle Marshall is here. He's on the couch. And my dad's like, what? I was like, Uncle Marshall, he's on the couch. He was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like trying to say it again because I'm confused. Like, are you not understanding me? Uncle Marshall's here. And as I'm saying that, literally the phone starts ringing. So my dad picks up the phone and it's literally the hospital letting him know that my Uncle Marshall had passed. So now my dad is like hysterical. He's waking up my mom and they're both like saying, that he's gone. And I'm like, I'm still not getting it. I'm like, he's on the couch. And my dad keeps like, what am I talking about? We get up, we go into the living room. He's not there because he's at the hospital. Yeah. So my dad kept asking me, like, what did you see? What did you see? I was like, I started getting scared. I'm like, I saw him. He waved at me. He was on the couch. Like, I was not getting it. So, yeah. So that was my first encounter seeing paranormal. Rest in peace, to my uncle. That was the last time I saw him, but apparently he did come back again to like other people. That's like a whole nother story. Like if you're Nigerian, you already know it's a mess. It's a longer story, but that was my interaction. A lot of people were like, no, you might have dreamt it, but I was like, there was no reason. Why would I literally wake up out of my sleep, see him, wave at him, and 2 minutes later, we get the phone call that he's gone. I don't know, but...
Trigger warning, I'm going to mention, it's taken me so long to tell this full story because it's genuinely one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. So when me and my husband bought our first house, things started to get weird very quickly, but it took about 2 years before it all came to a head. The first thing that I noticed is every morning when I woke up, even though I had tucked all the chairs into the kitchen table, one chair was always in the same chair, was always taken out from the table and facing down the hallway, which was where all the bedrooms were. That happened for a while, and it took me a minute to pick up on the fact that it wasn't my husband doing it, and my husband picking up on the fact that it wasn't me. Then I started to walk down the hallway like at night, and I would see the chair facing me, and nobody's sitting in it, but in the reflection of the like window right beside the table, there was always an old man sitting in the chair. I didn't think anything of it because he didn't seem to creep me out, like timelines passing, whatever. Then one night I'm having a dream, a sleep paralysis dream, so I'm like awake, but not really. And I see a shadow, a very tall, like 8-foot, very skinny shadow, standing and leaning over my husband like this. He's sleeping. The next morning when my husband wakes up, I told him, like, I saw the craziest thing standing over you. I don't mean to scare you, but I saw something. And he was like, stop, because I had a dream that I opened my eyes and there was nothing but like black staring at me. And then I told him what I saw, and like, I mean, you just like that kind of coincidence. A few months go by, and then we're sitting in the living room, and this is a house that was built in the 60s. So we had this like big bay window in the living room. And we were on an acre, and basically all of that acre was our front yard. And we hear scratching on the front window, on the outside of the front window. And it wasn't anything like a raccoon, or it couldn't have been anything like that. We were still in a neighborhood. And that just wasn't something we often saw. I mean, the front porch was literally like this big. I wouldn't even call it a porch. So me and him get kind of like uncomfortable and weird. We're like, let's go back to the bedroom. We go back to the bedroom and we lay down, and all of a sudden we hear such a loud bang. We thought that both of our bookshelves, we had like 8-foot tall bookshelves in our living room with we collect old books and like all the old National Geographics. We heard them fall, and both of our cats went running to the back of our house. They came running under our bed. And so we slam the door. We start kind of like game planning, like, what do we do? What do we do? We're thinking somebody's in the house. They just like busted our door down, and the bookshelves fell, like something's going on. We get some protection, and we go out to like see what's happening. Nothing was out of place. Nothing had fallen. Nothing. And we know we weren't crazy because our cats reacted. Then I had a baby, and I brought her home, and babies always stare and do weird stuff. But one of my first viral videos was her staring behind me like this. I had her on my knees, and she was looking behind me, and she's laughing and playing with something behind me. And as I pan the camera, you see white movement, like right here. The video's on TikTok, so we can find it. I would say about a month after that, I was rocking her in her room at night. I was fully awake. I was not dreaming. I was not sleepy. Like, I'm full mom mode. I'm up. Her bedroom looked all the way down the hallway where that chair is facing me, as it has for the last 2 years that we lived there. And as I look up into the hallway, I see facing the corner, like looking into my bedroom, because her room's here and my bedroom's like here. So standing, looking into my bedroom where I'm in her bedroom, is a full-on, hooved, extremely tall, horned. I immediately start praying. I immediately out loud start praying. And of course, this is at 3 a.m. So the next morning, I tell my husband, I saw something crazy. I'm getting out of here. And he said that he looked over on the monitor at about 3 a.m. and he saw something moving around in the bedroom. Mind you, this is when I was rocking her, and the monitor does not face the rocking chair. So I loaded up my baby. We went to a Catholic church, and I got christened. I got a christened cross, a christened blessing. I filled up a whole water bottle and 2 little Tupperware things of holy water. I had an entire, the cross hanging on the entryway of our house. I walked around. I had one of my Catholic friends come over and bless our home. I walked around dousing holy water and praying over the entire house. I bathed my daughter in holy water. I bathed her in holy water. That's how much holy water I got. They probably thought that I was insane. And then every night before bed, I would bless her head, and I would bless every single one of me and my husband and every doorway in our house. After that, we never had another incident. To this day, it's one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me, and I still carry that cross around. It's about this big, but it comes with us no matter where we live, and it's always...
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
Okay, so in my house growing up, my childhood bedroom was attached to the attic. It was in my closet, and there was this little wooden door on the other side behind my clothes, and when you opened it, you couldn't actually see into the attic. You could only see up the stairs that would take you to the attic. So I never messed with it. I just left it alone. I was like, I don't want to, this is too much. So I would barricade it. I would just leave the escape ladder for a fire in front of it. So I knew that if it was opened, I would hear it. And for a very long time, I always felt like there was a presence in my room. I didn't really know what was going on. It never felt like I was truly alone, and I was an only child of only children. So like your girl was alone all the time. And I eventually moved my room around to the point where I had this little desk that was like a triangle style desk, so it went straight into the corner. And one night, I woke up in the middle of the night to my bunny rabbit banging against his crate, which he would do almost every night at almost the same exact time, 3:34 a.m. And one night I look over under this desk and there's this little boy under there. And I can tell he's not real, but like I don't really know why I can tell he's not real. It's just maybe he was just like fainter. I just could tell he wasn't a real person. And I wasn't scared. He wasn't scary. He was just in this little like ball kind of sitting under my desk, and he just looked sad. He just looked sad. And I mean, I didn't love that he was there, but I really didn't mind it too much, maybe because I was half asleep. So I went back to bed, woke up, he was gone, obviously, and I just kind of went by. I went through my day, whatever. And every so often, I would end up waking up to my bunny at the same exact time, and he would just be under this desk in my bedroom. And my parents didn't believe in ghosts, and I didn't really tell anyone about it because I was just like, this is weird. What if I'm dreaming? I don't know what's really going on. That wasn't a conversation that my family and I had about ghosts, whatever. And I just kind of let it be. But as I got older, he never really went away. And I would always just get really creeped out in my house as I got older, and my family never understood why. Like, I didn't really like for it to be dark. I had a nightlight for years, like well into my teenage years. And it was just always because I knew there were other presence in the house. And he was, I'm going to tell you how he was dressed because it's going to play a role in a second. He looked like a little chimney sweep from Mary Poppins. He had the whole attire, the hat. He had what looked like soot on him. And I just thought it was because he lived in the attic upstairs, and that's how I justified it. And I just kind of was like, whatever, didn't really talk to him, didn't really converse with him, let it be. I moved out of the house once I went to college and became an adult, bought my house, moved out, and my dad lived in the house last by himself. He was working on selling the house and told me one night that he had a dream. And it was really weird because he was almost being shown the house by someone who he had never seen there, who he didn't know, who was a little kid, and he didn't really understand the importance of this kid, but this kid just wanted to show him around the house. And he was like, it was really daunting because I woke up and he was just kind of looking at me from the end of my bed. And I walked around with him. He didn't say anything. And then we just kind of went on our way, and that was it. And I was like, okay, so tell me more about this little boy. Because mind you, I had never told my family this little boy, what he looked like, anything like that. I just said that I felt like there was something in the house all the time. That's all I said. And he proceeds to tell me that it looks like he has like suspenders on, and like he's from like early 20s, not early 20s, early 1900s, mid 1900s. And that he was like kind of dirty, and I was like, oh, that's super interesting. Is there any chance he was wearing like a little hat like a chimney sweep would? And he goes, yeah, it kind of did look like one of those hats. And I was like, interesting, okay. And was he like almost covered in soot, like maybe he was a chimney sweep? And he goes, yeah, he was pretty dirty. And I was like, that's really interesting. And this was a boy, right? Like he was probably like 8, 9. And he was like, yeah, that's exactly about how old I would have pegged him for. And I was like, yeah, that boy has been living in my bedroom for almost my entire life. And you got to meet him, I guess, because you're the only one there. And he was like, no. And I was like, yeah, he showed up in your dreams. Probably around 3 a.m. is when he came and popped by, because I know that you go to work at 4:30 a.m. He goes, yeah, I was awake for probably like an hour before my alarm went off for me to like go to work. And I was like, that's interesting. That is interesting. So I convinced my dad that ghosts are real and that I had been seeing